Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. And on the same line of Marilia's remarks, I would like also to offer some personal remarks, because the achievements of Shmuel, both scientifically and institutionally, speak for themselves. And the first time I met Shmuel, something similar to what happened with Marilia happened to me. It was at Arden Hall, a retreat place near New York. During Otto Kahrenberg's administration, there was this weekend meeting about psychoanalysis and university and culture and society. And suddenly, in the middle of all those people, I saw this man, and I looked at him, and it was a sort of love at first sight. I knew nothing about him, but I felt something in him that was so familiar. And it took me some time to realize that he is and he was so familiar, because he remembered immediately my Polish Jewish uncle and my Polish Jewish grandfather and even my mother. So I felt something before even talking. And then when we began to talk, I confirmed the fact that he was not only familiar, but he was an extremely interesting, intelligent, challenging, agreeable people with a lot of humor, and we enjoyed nice conversations, Jewish jokes, and so on. So we kept meeting from time to time, and then a few years later, we found ourselves as members of the board. And at that point, there was a crucial situation that was going on. That was the education discussions and the discussion on the fact whether we had 1, 2, 3, or 10 models. And in my view, it was a crucial point, because the IPA needed to move forward. And so I had to invite someone to be chair of the education committees. I didn't know what to do. I had 2 or 3 days. I was talking with my colleagues, friends, and then in the middle of a discussion, I looked at Shmuel, and it was obvious. This is the guy to do this job. Why? Because he was very strict, very organized, and in a sense, very conservative. He had very clear views on psychoanalysis, and he knew exactly where to go, how to go. He could really bring to this complex situation the strength and the wisdom that is described in the Pirkei Avot, ethics of the father that Mira mentioned. So I spoke with him, and I report this in the book, and I invited him. And his reaction was very interesting. He said, "Take care, what are you doing? You don't know me enough. You don't know what I can do. You are trusting me before even." And so I said, for some internal reason, I think I can trust you. And in the next day, he accepted. And what he and his committee did was a wonderful academic work, a careful study of the existing reality in the 3 regions of the IPA, and then he came up with this proposal, and we discussed it, and it was approved in Berlin unanimously. So it seemed to me a sort of a miracle what we achieved together. And so in the next years, we kept meeting, and I was always following Shmuel and Mira's activities. But among so many other things, what moves me, and perhaps what moves us all, and perhaps the most moving thing is the love that connects him and Mira, and this is an act of love, as Maria said. We are celebrating not only Shmuel, but we are celebrating a loving relationship that expresses itself in so many ways, so beautifully. It's really very beautiful to see both of them arriving at the Congress, chairing a meeting, writing books, and they keep going on with this wonderful work, being in Berlin, being in Beijing, being in Buenos Aires. So I very often quote and mention to my students at the institute, at the university, everywhere, their work is one of the psychoanalytic ways of doing things that I most often mention, to see it as a model of what psychoanalysis can do in such a crazy and dissociated and violent and fundamentalistic world. So they taught us how it's possible to sit down and to talk and to build bridges between or among so many different perspectives. So when Mira wrote to me, I had a shock. It was not possible. Maybe she was mistaken. Shmuel could not be arriving at 80. But we have in Brazil this, I will say it in Portuguese so you can feel. Hoje em dia, qualquer guri tem 80 anos, which means nowadays, any kid is 80. So this gift that we all love is now 80. And I am very happy to be here to celebrate with both of them, and I'm very grateful for the invitation. And I think that this is one of the best moments in this Congress, so huge, so full of activities, to have a relatively intimate meeting among friends, among colleagues, among people who love you and Mira, and who are very happy to be here celebrating not only your achievement, but mainly your main achievement. That is what Mira described in the 80s, 90s, and wherever we can go. The ability to get together, to embrace, to hold, and to make science, psychoanalysis, our science, move forward. Thank you.